Hello, everybody. This is the weekly review for U.S. history from March 8th to March 12th as we continue to transition from Unit 2 on the Great Depression to Unit 3 on the World War II era. At the beginning of the week, we had a writing prompt. We watched a video about Japanese internment camps during World War II. After viewing, students were asked to generate 3 to 5 closed-ended, fact-based questions. Collectively, we produced questions such as what kind of food did they eat at the camps? How long did Aki's family spend at the camp, who was one of the people mentioned in the video? How did they make room for all the detainees? And what was the purpose of Order 9066? All great fact-based questions that were generated by you students in the class. Some students continued working on the first formative assessments, defining and finding examples of primary and secondary sources. Again, that particular assignment was attached to the era known as the Great Depression. And students also worked on completing the summative assessment. We dedicated an entire class on Thursday to catching up on assignments before mid-quarter progress reports. Our four-class focus continued to be respect. That was the executive functioning skill we've been focusing on for a couple of weeks now. This includes being engaged in class, emphasizing the benefits and satisfaction of learning, and attempting to complete work in a timely fashion. Next week, we will move on to another executive functioning skill, and we will conduct an exit ticket on how well you engaged in being respectful. Later in the week, we watched a video and read a short passage about the role of women during World War II. After, students were asked to produce both fact-based and analytical questions based on the video reading. Again, your fact-based are your sort of short answer, closed-ended questions, and your analytical questions would be your more complex and open-ended questions. An example of a fact-based question that was produced, if the women who worked had kids, who took care of them? And an analysis question, how did women feel about making less money than men for doing the same job? Great questions generated by students in the class. On Friday, we watched a video of an interview with a Holocaust survivor who had worked for Oskar Schindler, pictured here. We also read a passage that detailed Oskar Schindler's life and his treatment of the Jews who worked in his factory. We once again challenged ourselves to generate those fact-based and analysis questions based on what was watched and read. And an example of a fact-based question that was student-generated, how many factories did he own? How many factories did Oskar Schindler own? And an analysis question, did he ever feel remorse? A very sort of deep, thoughtful question generated by a student about, how did Schindler feel after everything that he had done? He did help save a lot of Jews, but he also, was a Nazi and worked in a munitions factory or owned a munitions factory that, worked towards the elimination of the Jews in some ways. And did he feel remorse later in his life? What's coming up next? We're going to continue World War II. And we'll be returning to analyzing eras and themes for this unit. We'll also be using the question formulation technique to help with our analysis during this unit. And our focus will be primarily on 3 components of World War II: the Holocaust, the Japanese internment, and women's roles during World War II. That's it for now.